Good evening, everyone. Tonight, a prime suspect is under arrest, charged in the brutal murder of a Toys R Us manager, Laurence Wells. The young father was stabbed to death inside the store last June. Now, almost 4 months later, this man, 38-year-old Bernard Kruscha, is locked up. In this chilling video, you can see the loss prevention officer at the scene hugging co-workers, even chatting with police on the day of the murder. Throughout the evening, we've been uncovering new details just like that one. News 4's Ed Dranch kicks off our live team coverage in Hamburg tonight. Ed?
Don, police spent several months reviewing evidence and conducting interviews trying to figure out who killed Larry Wells inside this Toys R Us. Tonight, Hamburg police say their main suspect was hiding in plain sight.
There were several pieces of evidence that started to point to him.
Certain evidence led Hamburg detectives to 38-year-old Bernard Kruscha, who is now charged with second-degree murder in the stabbing death of Larry Wells last June.
He was always on the radar, but, you know, it was a matter of having really too much information to pour through until it finally got focused on him.
Captain Kevin Trask says the stabbing was an inside job. Kruscha worked at Toys R Us, where Wells was the assistant store manager. Police say they had several conversations with the suspect. In fact, he's seen here in this video hours after the crime, talking to police and consoling workers.
You know, he was the regional manager, so he had we talked to him on a regular basis about the investigation.
Police tell News 4 Kruscha was Wells' boss, but they don't believe the two had any relationship outside of work.
I think he went on leave from Toys R Us after the homicide.
Throughout the day, police raided two homes in connection to the case. One in Elma, where Kruscha is listed as the owner. The other in the village of Allegheny, where he was ultimately arrested. Police say they collected more evidence in both places.
There was several DNA samples taken, but I can't comment on whether or not that matched anything in there.
During the 4-month-long investigation, police had trouble identifying the suspect. They say the surveillance video was grainy and could not be enhanced by the FBI. Investigators also found this Florida Gators hat, but could not make a connection. Jill Wells, the victim's widow, released this statement about the arrest. "We are so relieved and glad," she wrote, "but it doesn't bring Larry back. We just wish it would. We hope the person gets put away for life." Police told News 4 today that Kruscha never tried to fool police during their 4-month-long investigation. In fact, they say he was not even considered a main suspect until now. We've also learned from some workers here at Toys R Us who spoke to News 4's Lou Ragoose off camera that Kruscha never seemed violent. But George Rickert joins me now. And George, you found out that he had a somewhat dark past.
Yeah, it turns out that just 3 weeks before this fatal stabbing, Bernie Kruscha had his handgun taken away and spent a week in jail. 38-year-old Bernard Kruscha was the regional asset protection manager for Toys R Us. He had earned a bachelor's degree in criminalistics and criminal science at Canisius College after he graduated from St. Francis High School in 1993. He was married with children, but exactly 3 weeks before the murder back in June, Kruscha was arrested for harassment and weapons possession after a domestic dispute at his Kettle Road home in Elma. Sheriff's deputies confiscated his pistol back then, and he spent a week in the holding center. Neighbors say they didn't see him around much since then. While we were outside the Elma home today, his wife drove up and went inside. The couple had filed for bankruptcy protection 4 years ago. In his job as asset protection manager, he dealt with crimes in the stores. In fact, this is video of him in the white T-shirt hours after the murder, assisting police with the investigation. This is him at the store that morning hugging a co-worker. He was arrested early this morning at the home of an acquaintance in the Cattaraugus County village of Allegheny, though it's unclear how much time he spent there. One neighbor tells me he saw undercover police watching this house from a distance for a couple nights before the early morning arrest. The acquaintance is a woman in her 30s who apparently moved into this house owned by her father about a month ago.
I haven't seen anybody living here. It's pretty much a student street here. There's been no noise. I assumed that the house was just abandoned.
So, having said all that, everything we've learned about Bernie Kruscha over the last several hours, what we still don't have is the answer to a big question: why? We don't know if this was an attempted theft that led to murder or whether Bernie Kruscha actually went in there attempting to kill someone. Hamburg police honestly don't seem to be sure of the motive yet. Live at McKinley Parkway and Milestrip with Ed Dranch, George Rickert, News 4 at 10.
All right, Ed and George, thanks a lot. And as you can see, this is a story with a lot of loose ends. We'll be keeping you updated on every single angle, both on air and online at WIVB.com.